that bad?
No, it was good. I just don't remember. I don't remember. It went so fast.
It was a very fast weekend. They already, I got this one already. Should get it today. Okay, we're going to call the Franklin Regional School Board of Directors, the Committee of the Whole meeting to order for Monday, September 18th, 2023. Ms. Gillen, roll call.
Mr. Karimsky,
Here.
Mr. Kozlowski,
Here.
Mr. Azalina,
Here.
Mr. Mitterator,
Here.
Mr. Weinman,
Here.
Mr. Yant,
Bill.
Mr. Yant.
Oh, I said here already. The wrong time. Sorry.
It's okay. Dr. Eshelman Ramey,
Here.
Ms. Altieri Hand,
Here.
Mr. Yingling.
Here. Okay, Curriculum Committee was in executive session on 9/6/2023 from 6:50 to 7:15. We're in executive session tonight from 6:30 to 7:25, legal, safety, security, and contracts. Superintendent's report, Dr. Prano.
Good evening. First, I'm going to begin by congratulating our girls golf team for winning their third consecutive county title. And I believe they're 41 consecutive section match victories. Great stuff. Proud of them and the work that's happening there with that program. I'm also here tonight. I received notification from PSBA asking me to present an award or a recognition. And it says, good evening. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Pennsylvania School Board Association to honor a school director for his years of service and dedication to the district. School board service has long been a crucial part of our nation's legacy and is a commitment to public education. As the first school boards association in the United States, PSBA has a rich history and more than 125 years of service. The consummate school directors are described as ethical, principled individuals with a deep desire to serve. They believe in the value of our public schools and local control of public education for the benefit of all children. Today, school districts are expected to offer more services along with world-class instruction with limited resources. These expectations provide a tremendous challenge for our school directors, unpaid volunteers who dedicate their time to the schools and communities they serve. For almost 40 years, PSBA has been acknowledging the contributions of dedicated school directors with long-term service. The honor roll is the association's way of thanking those individuals who exemplify leadership by giving unselfishly of their time and talents for the betterment of the public schools serving students across the Commonwealth. I'm very pleased to recognize the following individual for his part of this rich legacy. And tonight we're recognizing Herb Yingling for 20 years as a Franklin Regional School Director.
Thank you very much. I did not know that you were reading that for me.
I did not tell you, yes, because
I'm trying to turn the computer on. I didn't,
and so.
but thank you. It was very appreciated.
And it really is rare to have someone serve a community board, volunteer to be on a community board for 20 years. It's actually longer than many of our students have been
A little bit
alive.
longer than 20, but that's close enough.
So,
Thank you. Thank you very much. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
that concludes the superintendent's report for this evening.
Thank you very much. Okay, public comments. We have one for the committee of the whole meeting is Jamie Ling. Name, address, Jamie, and you have 4 minutes.
Jamie Ling, 3501 Burnett Drive. Good evening. I am here tonight to make some comments about the mental health screen that was brought up at the curriculum committee meeting. I want to preface this by stating I believe in the importance of mental health care, but I also believe in the importance of parents' rights. The mental health screen that was proposed consisted of 41 questions. Some of the questions posed were of the following. Does a student have trouble sleeping? Do they have to do something over and over repeatedly? Do they worry that something bad would happen to someone in their family? Do they feel worthless? In the past 6 months, did they think about hurting themselves or suicide? It was said during the meeting that the survey was being conducted for the purpose of securing a PCCD grant. PCCD is the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency. Franklin Regional School Policy 235.1 on surveys states, for the purpose of this policy, protected information as addressed by the Protection of Pupil Rights Amendment, the PPRA, includes 8 points. 3 of these appear to be addressed in the proposed mental health survey, but I'll just make note of one. Number 2, because the title, Mental Health Screen as per the agenda posted, clearly states its intention. Missing my second page. Oh well. So number 2 had stated, can I have my sheets from over there? I'm losing my minutes. Number 2 had stated any questions about their mental health or state of themselves or of their family. So part of the 235.1 said that no student shall be required as part of any program to submit to a survey, analysis, or evaluation that reveals protected information. Under the Franklin Regional Policy, mental health would be considered protected information without written parental consent. So I'll repeat that, without written parental consent for students under 18 years of age or emancipated students or those over 18 years of age. Per FR policy, this proposed survey then cannot be an opt-out because it collects protected information as defined in the Franklin Regional Policy and the PPRA. It must be conducted with written parental consent only. Nowhere in the policy does it cover whether said survey has supposed anonymity. On the first day of school, I wrote an email to Mr. Curran, Mr. Suvak, and an email to the entire board of directors with questions and a photo of a survey that was given via Google Forms of a high school class asking for name, date of birth, and requiring an answer for preferred pronouns. Although I was thanked for my questions regarding this by both Mr. Curran and the 5 of the 9 school board directors, no resolution about this survey has been proposed that I am aware or was made clear to me. So my question to you, under the policy 235.1, which says, surveys conducted by outside agencies, organizations, and individuals, in this case this would be teachers, shall be approved by the board based on the superintendent's recommendation prior to administration to students. So was this preferred pronoun question on the survey approved per that policy? If not, what is being done to ensure that further surveys like that do not repeat, considering it violates FR's and PPRA's protected information definition of, number 3, sex behavior or attitudes, attractions, beliefs of the student or student's parent, guardian, or family. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, solicitor's comment.
Can I make one comment about the survey? I read the survey to my wife. I read the survey to a few people. It is meant to gauge the climate of the schools, how the kids are feeling, so that we can focus our resources where the children need it. There is a lot of talk about mental health across the nation, and trying to understand what our kids need is very important to me. The survey is anonymous. It is not collecting anyone's name. And if you want to opt out of the survey. We have not passed the survey. It is still back at the curriculum committee. But trying to understand the climate of your school and understanding where we need to focus our resources should be part of our jobs so that we make sure we're taking care of our kids. Second, with regards to pronouns, preferred pronouns, honestly, I'm not concerned about it. If a child wants to be called, whatever a child wants to be called, it's perfectly fine with me. I mean, that's their choice. We have an individual up here named Jamie. Your name is Jamie. There's a boy and a girl. And I work every day at Pitt with people that I don't know whether they're a boy or a girl based on their name, because I work with people from tons of different countries. It is sometimes helpful. I thank you for your comments, and I just want to make sure that everybody understands where that survey is coming from. It is to help direct our resources and make sure we are taking care of our kids. Thank you. Can I rebut? No.
You can't, you have your 4 minutes. Okay, solicitors' comments, nothing?
No comment.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Dr. Smith, we're on the consent agenda items. Oh, you're Dr. Smith tonight, Dr. Rogalski. Okay.
Good evening. Dr. Smith was not able to be here this evening, so I'm going to take the first agenda item. This is our annual agreement for reading services at Mother of Sorrows. Through the Greensburg Diocese, we have decided collectively as a group that we will utilize Catapult for those services. The monetary amount is $14,254. 11,578 is from this year, and there is carryover of 2,676 from last year. So where we get those numbers is with our Title I allocation, which is based on our free and reduced numbers. We get a certain amount of money. That certain amount of money then is generated into a per pupil allocation. And then that per pupil allocation of students that qualify and meet that criteria at Mother of Sorrows, that's the amount that they are given, and that is based on federal guidance.
Any questions for Dr. Rogalski? Okay.
Thank you.
Go for SAP agreement.
I'll take that one this evening. That is out.
Okay. Very good.
I'm trying to confuse you. The ASAP agreement is a service agreement for $4,800 for the school year for software that will allow us to streamline and strengthen our SAP framework and process.
Any questions for Mr. Fulvio on that?
Yes.
One question.
Is it COPA compliant?
It is not student-facing at all, so we looked into that, and that is to protect the rights of students when something is student-facing. So
So,
that wouldn't apply in this case.
so how does it, but it has all the student information in it?
Right, but
So how-
COPA compliance is relative to when something is used by students. And this is only used by certified, trained SAP members, and it's kept internally.
Okay, and
our
what do they do to protect their data? What does ASAP do?
The privacy policy and all of that data information was in the, is in the website that I gave you. If you have further questions about that, it would come out of that, or I can have a rep discuss that as well.
Yeah, I'm not ready to vote on this. I'm very concerned with all of our data in general. I mean, we've done everything, and I know Mr. Schreckengast has tried to stay 2 steps ahead of all of our data. And our community, we're all very, very grateful for this. But we're at a point where I don't know if we can protect our data any longer, because I believe that this will be tied into PIMS, the ASAP, that they'll be reporting our student information into the student database. And
As we mentioned, that is a aggregated number of referrals, and that is all that is reported by building. It's a number of type of referrals. No student information is connected to that data.
so we don't have a PAA student code attached to that. There's no unique ID that it's attached to any of the ASAP
When information gets
information
uploaded
into all
into
of their
PIMS,
files.
what you're asking is whether ASAP will report through the PIMS report any identifiable information.
I'm
and that's
asking
not
what
the
they
case.
are going to be sending PIMS. What kind of reports are they going to be sending PIMS, and how is it aggregated?
Then remember the chart that Dr. Smith showed you the other day when we met? Those are numbers that come through. So it's like yearly, how many students were referred for attendance, and it may say 12. That number 12 gets reported.
And the student files, totally safe. They are not, the student files are not going to be uploaded. That's not part of the,
They never have been. We have to report to the state every year. We've been doing it since, I would say, I mean, since I've been here, but SAP reporting has been required for decades. And so we've reported this data every year.
you understand why I'm so concerned.
Sure.
Right? The laws and the regulations have changed throughout the years, and particularly in 2015 when ESSA changed their rules and regulations regarding FERPA and HIPAA due to the executive order 12866 that requires us to release all of this information to PIMS, to the data. And I know Mr. Schreckengast has to constantly, it's an unfunded mandate. I mean, we spend millions of dollars to upload this information, and we don't know where it's going. We don't know if it's safe. And I'm afraid that this is going to feed into that system, and I don't know how. I'm just trying to protect our kids. I'm very, very worried about their information. I'm very concerned about all of the data that we're uploading to Harrisburg and what they're doing with that data. And we send it in aggregate, but when you peel that layer back, the second and third layer can have identifiable information according to the PA unique code or whatever they're calling it. Once you peel back that layer, I'm very concerned about that. And we have to do it. It's the regulation. It's the mandate. It's a state mandate. We have to do it. We get money from the state. We have to upload all of that data. But we have no control. We don't have any control or sovereignty over our children's and our parents, the families, their data. We have no sovereignty over it once it leaves our district. And I'd like to learn more about all of the fields that we're sending and uploading to Harrisburg. And because they can
those are
release
documents.
all of that information under the new regulations of FERPA.
St. Vincent Prevention Projects oversees SAP in our region. They report directly to the state level SAP.
They report our kids' information to
Hold on.
PIMS.
Hold on 1 second. So they report directly to the state level SAP direction. Each year, those state level directors give the regional SAP directors like St. Vincent forms, and they're bubble sheets. And anyone could look at those bubble sheets. Those bubble sheets have been filled out for every student referred to SAP as long as SAP has existed. There's no identifiable information. In the past, the counselors would take those bubble sheets and just count up the number of referrals for attendance, say, and put a 12 into the box. Rather than the counselors doing that, this software, so I can only speak right now to this software will replicate that process more efficiently, and we control that data through our server. So nothing is changing in my mind in terms of the reporting that we've been doing for years. So if you'd like to see the bubble sheets, I can get you a copy of those bubble sheets. They're given to us each year. They're given to every school district in the Commonwealth.
Yeah, I thank you for that. I'd like to see that, and I'd also like to see all of the fields that we upload to Harrisburg.
Those are the bubble sheets.
They are, those are the bubble sheets. Okay, so it's the same report that, I mean, I think it was 8 years ago or so, Dr. Borland, who was on the school board, requested a full report of all of the data that we have to upload on a daily basis, on a monthly basis.
Well, I'm only speaking about SAP.
You're just talking about SAP.
I don't coordinate any other PIMS reports. So for this purpose, I can provide you the SAP bubble sheet.
Okay.
Mr. Schreckengast, can you come on up, please?
Yes, I can send you the, I guess, the templates
Yes, yes.
and the PIMS calendar that will detail every piece of information that we upload to PIMS.
That would be extremely helpful.
We also, just so you know, we're not just randomly sending these we are uploading this in an encrypted environment. So
Turn your mic
Oh,
Oh,
we upload those in an encrypted environment. It's not like we're just emailing those.
Oh, I get that. I mean, you do everything to protect our data. You are 2 steps ahead of every other school district. I get that. The problem is once it's out of our hands, that's what I worry about. I worry about them disaggregating it under those layers and getting to the personal identifiable information. And
I'm confused by the question then.
Going to the state?
I'm confused by the
Yes.
question. So we're doing everything we can. We're ensuring that we're funding that as a board, that our technology budget is enough. We're doing all of the safety protocols through electronic reporting that we are required to do
yes.
by the state. What are we supposed to be doing otherwise? That's my question. To what you've been asking. What
Brad
are you
and I-
saying we're supposed to be doing?
Brad and I met earlier this week, and we talked about performing vendor security reviews. I do that as part of my job at Pitt, and basing it on NIST 800-171. Are you familiar with that security framework?
It's not the security that I'm questioning. I mean, the government has
So are
authorization
are you
to.
concerned about the data that's going there?
I am.
You just don't want the state to have the data that they're requesting?
I'm concerned with what they're doing.
on us.
I'm concerned with what they're doing with it. And they have access to all our children's data.
So is that a question for our state representative?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean,
Maybe we
I would
need
like to be better
Talk to
informed.
the state representative about this question.
They need to be involved, absolutely. But I need to understand what information are we giving? What are all the fields that we're sending?
It's like probably 700 pages long. And
Yeah,
every field that-
I know.
Every piece of information we're sending.
I know, I know.
we know that's
And I
safe?
know you're doing everything to protect that data. We, as a school district, and administrators and teachers are doing everything to protect that data. The problem is, when they changed FERPA, it supersedes HIPAA. So any medical and mental health information that is in any of those fields is accessible to any third-party entity that asks for that information, HHS, Department of Transportation, Homeland Security, they all have access to that data under the new, under the ESSA laws. So I
Are you
Dr.
requesting that
Perrin-
we don't send it? Is that what
I
you're
would love that, but we don't have that option.
So then, again, I go back to the point, if we have to send it because it's mandated to send, and we can't just opt out to, or,
You can opt out.
okay. But my question is, you're asking that once the state government looks into it and starts peeling it back, what are we here as the board to do?
Inform the public?
So if we opted out, would our state
But-
funding be at risk?
Yes.
How much state funding do we get, John?
24% of our budget.
$19 million?
24% of our budget.
$19 million.
Also, I believe as a public school district, we're not like Grove City College that can say we don't want any funding. We're a private institution. We're not accepting that. We're not going to follow the guidelines. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Solicitor, but the Board of School Directors, in terms of the laws of the Commonwealth, as well as the administrative team, we all get our power, local power, granted to us through the state legislature. And so our ability just to opt out and say, we're not going to take your money, we're going to run autonomously, even though we're a local control state, we're not totally a local control state. We still fall under the laws and the rules of the Commonwealth as it relates to public schools.
Right, we don't have sovereignty as a school district. Exactly.
So that's why, before we say we can just opt out and forgo the money and then,
No, the parents can opt out.
Oh.
We can't opt out, but the parents can opt out if they don't want their information to be shared.
is that accurate, Mr. Struggles?
I don't know if that's accurate or not. I'd have to check into that, but I don't believe so. I don't think we can opt out of that. I know right now if we don't send reports, then we get.
We can't, but the parent can opt out of.
I don't know that.
Okay, thank you.
And again,
I
Mr.
believe that
Volvio.
you can opt out of surveys that you're talking about, but the required information for to the Commonwealth, that's how they calculate various funding sources to you.
And to bring this back to what's actually being presented in front of us, again, Mr. Fulvio, if you can just say that what is being sent through the ASAP is just a number, and there's no identifiers or anything per student.
Correct.
Okay. So on anything else that's outside of just speaking to the ASAP, on a larger scale, Mr. Schreckengoss, if you could provide that, then, or look into that, then I think that's a larger discussion to have as opposed to the document in front of us.
Okay, any other comments on this? Okay, Mr. Fulvio, you're still up. St. Vincent.
Our next item is our annual agreement with St. Vincent Prevention Projects for our elementary in-class programs and our secondary teens educational support group.
Any
There's no
questions?
change in pricing from the previous year.
Any questions on St. Vincent? You're up again, Sound Trap.
This next item is proposed for use in our general music class at the middle school, but in addition to that, we do have some interest from some of our multimedia teachers, and as well as our librarians who do some podcasting work. This is an audio engineering program that will allow students in general music and other courses to create and produce their own music and podcasts through these 175 seats. We will actually rotate probably twice that many students through this program each year, because as the students move through trimesters at the middle school, they will be able to reuse those seats.
Mr. Fulvio, we talked about, when we were going over this in the committee meeting, which you did speak to already, so thank you for checking in on that quickly, whether it was able to be used. It was initially just the music program that it was announced to. We wondered if it could be expanded. Is this going to be something that benefits additionally to what we already have in those other areas, or replacing things?
It's in addition to. We had 4 other teachers who were interested in utilizing this, and I have a feeling that may grow as teachers get to see what it does. Mrs. Magnus at the high school is going to use it. She only needs it on 3 devices, and the students can use it together as groups. But once they see, a little bit more about what it does, there may be even further interest.
So do we have enough seats on our proposal
plenty,
now to
yes.
kind of test
There's
the
a little
waters
bit of
in those other
extra.
areas? Okay.
Yes, so that they can expand that if they'd like to.
As it's proposed, we're still okay to even
We
receive?
have about 20 extra seats in
Okay,
there.
great.
Sure.
Any other statements for Sound Trap? Mr. Fulvio, you're still up for case method.
Our next item is being sought for 30-day review. It's the Case Method Institute case studies presented by our AP Prep high school social studies teachers at our curriculum committee. And there are 6 case studies from the Harvard Business School that will be placed on 30-day review if they receive approval. During that 30-day review, there are copyright issues around posting those online, so they will be available in hard copy for anyone who would like to read them. They're very interesting and possibly very time-consuming to read. So if you're interested, you may want to schedule a few visits.
Any questions for the case method? Okay, Jen.
Our next
Mr.
item.
Fulvio, you're up again.
Our next item is also for 30-day review. This is the Natural High Red Ribbon Week website and videos, and these would be used in the middle and high school levels to, Red Ribbon Week occurs each year and focuses students. Originally, it was based on kind of the negative, like, don't do drugs, don't use alcohol. They're shifting the focus to be healthy, find ways to enjoy your life. And they have some wonderful videos. Anyone can go and watch them. They are available online at the website that's listed, and they engage students with popular culture, sports people, and there are lots of really positive videos and information that could be used for all the secondary students.
Okay, any questions? Okay, one more, Mr. Fulvio. FRSD Health.
Actually, I have
and
2
Safety.
more because I'm doing number 8 as well. Number 7 is our health and safety plan revision that needs to be revised every 6 months. And we have made several revisions that just reflect the Department of Health guidance relative to the wording in some of those sections. So that is up for September renewal, or revision, I'm sorry, and then we will look at that again in 6 months, just so we can update with any changes that come to us.
Questions on health and safety? Thank you. Okay, music instrument purchase.
Okay, now I'm completely out of my wheelhouse for Mr. Matzi, so bear with me. This is, and I believe you have all of this information in front of you, but these are the purchase of musical instruments, and there's a chart there with all of the lowest bids that were placed.
Any questions on music instruments? Thank you. Okay, Mr. Skoog, I think you're going to do the next one. Westinghouse Wireless, Kenwood.
This is a request to purchase 10 more additional portable radios for our police officers and our staff. We came back from the summer break and we
Hold
have
on.
6.
I think she's going to replace your mic.
My battery's also dead.
I gave him mine.
I wish I did.
I can just stand it. Okay, now go.
All right, so I'm requesting to purchase 10 new Kenwood radios. The cost is $7,851.20. We came back from the summer break, and we have about 6 or 7 radios that are totally wiped out and garbage from the summertime. And our radios we currently have, I'm slowly replacing them 10 at a time, and I got these at a substantial discount from the last 10 that I bought. So actually, we have a product that went down in cost from the last time.
Any questions for Officer Skoog?
It says these are budgeted.
Your mic works.
Yes,
Yes, they are budgeted.
yes.
Okay, thank
Thank
you,
you.
Officer. Okay, Mr. Schreckengost.
Hey, this next item is for the replacement of our Sphero robots that we use at the elementary level. We've had these Sphero robots for a number of years. Many of those robots do not work. Ms. Gillen came across a good deal to get these replaced, and I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about that.
So I was contacted by a representative from Sphero, and they had an offer where we could do a trade-up program. So we could take any of our antiquated devices, do a trade-up for their current models. When I checked into that at the intermediate school, I came upon several power packs of Spheros that were broken, wouldn't hold a charge anymore. And we were able to exchange those for, again, those new models with some discounted pricing. So they are used frequently at the elementary for all sorts of things. They were originally bought with, one of them was bought with foundation money, the other one was bought with Newlandsburg money, back when we just started Stream at the elementary. So they're a little over 5 years old, and they are in desperate need of replacement. So hopefully you'll see fit to afford us that. Any questions?
Thank you. Mr. Schreckengost, that's it?
That's it.
Thank you. Okay, Dr. Delp, policy review, first read.
Good evening. The next item are the list of policies that were reviewed at the most recent policy committee meeting. That includes policy 006, meetings, policy 216.1, supplemental discipline records, policy 251, students experiencing homelessness, foster care, and other educational instability, policy 830, security of computerized personal information, breach notification, and Policy 830.1, Data Governance, Storage, and Security.
Any questions on policy? Okay, Dr. Delp, personnel.
The next items are our recommendation for personnel items to be provisionally approved upon submission of appropriate documentation and other required forms as prescribed by state and federal regulations.
Any questions on the personnel? Okay, Dr. Prano, PSBA.
Essentially, in front of you are the PSBA slate of candidates for your review, and for a vote later in the meeting. There is one person for each position, so it does not look like there's much of a contest there. So I don't have much more to say about that. In regard to the next item, 14, I'm going to do that for Mr. Massey. As we look to, you've hired an architect to do the specifications for the deconstruction of the Heritage Elementary School. As we've mentioned, there is asbestos in that building, which requires additional specifications. And so what item 14 is the approval of Intertech PSI to write the specifications for asbestos abatement, hazardous material removal, and monitoring the process for that removal at Heritage Elementary School. Essentially, the bulk, or the lowest bidder for this proposal was PSI, Intertech PSI, for $2,500. And then project meetings at $400 each. So that that is that item. Given the fact that there's asbestos abatement necessary, it requires special specifications for its removal prior to the deconstruction. So the architect would work with this company to oversee that piece of it. Yep. And then next, number 15, advanced builder's application for payment. They have finally completed the punch list for the elementary campus, with the exception of, I think we're still waiting for some line painting, and we withheld around $19,000 in terms of that for that portion of the project.
I believe, Superintendent, that was, the line painting was done, but I believe it was after the payment request came in.
So that's to complete the advanced builders portion of that. So that concludes what I have. If there are any questions.
Okay, Mr. Perry, you're up. Gifts, grants, and donations first.
Good evening. A number of donations and grants this month. First, a $25,000 tugboat grant from the Grable Foundation passed through the Allegheny Intermediate Unit, and this will be to continue to build out the collaboration spaces in the middle school, some additional furniture and flexible equipment to help students collaborate. Additionally, the Grable Foundation contributed $13,907 towards the district's participation in the Western Pennsylvania Learning 2025 Alliance. 2 staff members applied for and received Highmark Foundation grants. They're funding hydroponic gardens at the Franklin Regional Intermediate School and communication boards at Franklin Regional Primary School. And those 2 grants totaled $4,500. And then Gail Van Tattenhove donated $362 in curriculum resources for our special education department.
Any questions on gifts, grants, and donations?
What are those resources? Do I have a copy of that?
You know offhand what those resources were? It was something that we had looked to purchase, and she ended up donating them because they were soon to be out of date, but I don't know offhand what the resources were, and it doesn't look like Dr. Rogalski does either offhand. But
Did it go through the curriculum committee? Did I already see it, maybe?
I can't speak to that. We can table it if you don't want to vote for it, and I can get you the specifics of what was originally purchased. But
Any other questions? Okay, authorization of joint purchasing.
sure, the next 2 items are the annual approvals for the district to participate in the Westmoreland Intermediate Unit Joint Purchasing Consortium, the first being the district's representatives, and the second being permission to advertise jointly with the other school districts that participate in the consortium.
Any questions on joint purchasing? Okay, for a separate agenda item, we're going to go with permission to advertise for 23, 24, or 24, 25 joint purchasing agreement.
Yeah, I just spoke to that one as well.
Okay. All right. We're going to adjourn this meeting and move into I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Vince,
Second.
second by Kevin. Comments, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries 9-0. Okay, we're going to move into the committee of the voting meeting. Okay, we're going to move into Monday, September 18th, for the Franklin Regional Board of School Directors regular voting meeting. Stand for salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, reading of the mission statement. We, the Franklin Regional School community, strive for excellence, learning, achievement, and citizenship in all we do. Roll call.
Mr. Minerator.
Here.
Mr. Weinman.
Here.
Mr. Karimsky.
Here.
Mr. Kozlowski.
Here.
Mr. Azalina.
Here.
Ms. Altieri Hand. Here. Mr. Yant.
Here.
Dr. Eshelman Ramey.
Here.
Mr. Yingling.
Here. Okay, I need approval of the Committee of the Whole meeting minutes for August 14th, 2023, and the regular meeting minutes for August 14th, 2023.
So moved.
Move Ed.
Second.
Second Bill. Comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries 9-0. Future dates, Dr. Pirano.
Thank you, Mr. President. On October 2nd, we will have a curriculum committee meeting at the administrative offices at 5 p.m. On October 11th, we will have a finance committee meeting at 5 p.m. at the administrative offices. On October 18th, 2023, we will have a policy committee meeting at 5 p.m. at the administrative offices. A change so that we can hit the 30-day review on some of the previously presented curriculum items. We will have a committee of the whole and regular board meeting on October 23rd at 7:30 p.m. here at the Murraysville Municipal Building. Future topics include curriculum items, policy review, personnel, and gifts, grants, and donations. That concludes upcoming topics and future dates.
Thank you. Okay, I need a motion to approve the treasurer's report for August of 2023.
So moved.
Move Scott,
Second.
second Vince. Comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries 9-0. List of bills for September 2023. Paid bills, general fund, $662,017.53. Athletic fund, $6,199.54. Total paid bills of $668,217.07. Unpaid bills, general fund of $1,194,989.15. Capital reserve fund of $12,726.54. Athletic fund, $46,764.68, for a total of unpaid bills of $1,254,480.37, for a grand total of $1,922,697.44. Food service is $160,160.59. For a grand total, including food service, of $2,082,858.03. Need a motion to approve payment of bills, or list of bills.
So move, Mark.
Move, Mark.
Second.
Second, Ed. Comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Public comments. Okay, John Fallon. Need your name and address, and you've got 4 minutes, John.
Good evening. John Fowler, 2502 Covington Court. So I missed the meeting last week, unfortunately, when we were discussing the healthcare screener. So I was just curious, where is the survey? Can we see it? Is it
We showed it at
somewhere?
the policy committee meeting. I have no issue with it being published onto those.
So that
Was tabled.
has not made it through curriculum committee. So it's being revised and brought back to curriculum committee on October 2nd, I believe is our next one. And after that, at that point, it will be provided to anyone who would like to see it, in addition to any parent prior to children taking that.
Okay.
And it's not exactly it. You have your 4 minutes, then I'll.
Sure. We don't want it.
October.
Usually we don't do it that way.
You said the October 6th?
I think it's October 2nd.
Second.
Excuse me. Okay, and then it's going to be, how long do we get to review that before it's sent out?
So once something gets through curriculum committee, it comes to the board meeting, and then it could potentially, depending on what the curriculum committee chooses to do, either get voted on for approval or placed on the agenda for 30-day review approval, like some of the other items. If that's the case, then the 30-day review would occur, and it would be approved at the following meeting.
And who would decide the 30-day, if it's going to go to 30-day review?
The curriculum
I'm gonna
committee.
answer that.
They could say no.
You heard Dr. Prano.
Correct, yeah. Why don't we let Mr. Fallon ask his questions,
Sorry.
and then you record them, or, and then when we answer, so that way we don't get back into the.
Yeah, I just want
exchange
to
back and
make
forth.
sure that,
Yeah.
we can review those before they're being sent out. And correct me if I'm wrong, the plan is to have kids opt out or parents opt out, not opt in. Is that the plan?
Did you have another question? We were going to take all your questions.
We're going to write you.
Oh, I'm
Go through all your questions.
You're going to get an answer right now.
Yeah, because that's what it's saying. That's what I think I heard. So I guess those are my main questions. The last one is, I wondered this before. How often do we solicit for bid for products and services?
For what?
Products and services, how often do we solicit bids? Or do we? But I mean, is there a regular?
It depends on the product or service. John can speak to that, right?
So,
Hopefully we do that on some kind of.
We do that all the time. That's part of the process we've done all the time. When something has to go out to bid, it goes out to bid. We get back, and then it's presented to us what the lowest responsible bid is, and the board can decide on the.
2 months ago, 3 months ago, we have paper bids, we have
gasoline.
contracts, we have gas, we have electric, and at any number of board meetings, we go through a bunch of different services. But like I said, they're all dependent on that service.
There are some things that are done on a regular yearly basis. Other things are done when needed or when a contract is expiring.
Okay, thank you. I just want to say, I appreciate everybody serving on the board. I know it's I'm sure it's a thankless job, and everybody has their opinions, and some people get upset. So I just appreciate everybody serving. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
So as far as the healthcare screener, we did have a lot of discussion with that in our curriculum committee meeting. It was tabled for reasons of adding on to the survey, adding opt-out, or where does not apply to any individual question in order for a student that doesn't understand the question, is not comfortable with that question, because you want to have correct feedback as well. So the point of that discussion was there. We talked about the confidentiality of it, that they don't even log into their own Google account in Schoology. It's sent to them as a separate URL to, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Scott, but so they would log in independently, not even logged in on their server, which most people would do from their employer on an anonymous survey. We're taking it a step further than even that. We were adding a indication for the links to the SAP program services. After someone did that survey, they can go through the proper channels. It's not that survey that is to identify a child. The point of that survey is an aggregate which only goes to the 2 qualified people in our district. The anonymous data only goes to those 2 people, and it is used to identify what services the programs that we offer are meeting what the kids actually say is a need for them. So if we're doing a program on X and the kids are really saying Y is a problem, what good are we doing with your taxpayer money to reach out to kids and to help them if we don't know actual data? Nobody's required to take it. The student can opt out, the parent can opt out. We talked about emailing the entire survey to the parents, who are the ones with the rights that we always talk about, to the parents to look at it and have the option to look at the entire survey once we come up with the final product so that they can see it clearly. That's the transparency we talked about and discussed in the meeting and the purpose behind the survey itself. Is there anything
Call
else?
it a healthcare survey is really inaccurate. During that meeting, I said, are the kids okay? What do the kids need? That's how I viewed that survey, as I, with 2 kids in the school, viewed it. I realized that, you know what, every child in our district might not have a parent at home that notices differences in their child's behavior. And while this survey is anonymous, it helps the district understand, to Mark's point, what we can help focus on to make it a better environment for our kids, to make it a more supportive environment for our kids, and ultimately get them to the point where they are learning so that they can become productive members of society. Because that is our job, to make sure they leave our doors and can be productive members of our society.
And to circle back to answer your question, because it's not in a finalized form, but it will be hopefully presented to us on October 2nd, and then we'll make the proper process going forward, whether there's a 30-day review or whatnot, based on how we vote at the curriculum committee meeting. So that'll be laid out then, nothing at this particular point.
Okay, any other comments to answer some of your questions? Okay, thank you. Debbie Pachero.
4974 Klein Hollow
Put the
Road.
mic down a little bit, Debbie, because they can't hear you.
4974 Klein Hollow Road. You guys really answered a lot of my questions already, and I'm like, cross that out. But I do want to piggyback on what Dr. Eshelman-Ramey said, and I like the fact, and I trust the fact, that everybody's doing a great job of protecting our kids' data while it's in our school. But we really don't know what the government's going to do with them once it gets sent to them, and I think it's kind of prudent to continue following up on what she suggested and making sure where that data goes once it leaves the school. And so now we're collecting all this mental health data, observations, screenings of our students and our teachers. And sometimes I feel like our schools are slowly becoming mental health clinics rather than teaching the 3 R's. I remember when my kids went to school here 20 years ago, there wasn't this huge focus on feelings and how people were doing. It's kind of like mom and dad took care of that at home. Now it's becoming the school's job. I'm not so sure that I'm in agreement with that. And to piggyback on what Jamie Ling said, I do think we need to make sure that parents are aware of all these things, and there should be, continue to have transparency between teachers and parents, and nothing should be hidden. And that's all I want to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deb.
Thank you for your comment. But as a board member who sat up here or online for 3 years of COVID, there was a lot that got lost in kids being away from school or being homeschooled. Trying to understand those needs now, I think, is important. Once again, trying to focus the resources and make sure the kids become productive members of society is the point of this, of trying to understand the climate of our schools, so that we can focus on those R's. And I would absolutely love to focus just on that stuff. But we need the kids to be right, feeling well, in order for that to be successful. So I thank you for your comment. And Jamie, thank you for your comment earlier. And everyone, thank you for your comments. I appreciate them, and I listen to them. And every time I make a decision, I think about my kids, and I ask others how they look at it too. So I appreciate your comment.
And I agree with what you're saying. That's to come up. It does sometimes, even up here, feel like that because our discussions, our budgeting is so involved in these programs, the things that we've put in over the last 5 to 10 years. But there's a reason that those things have happened. Our kids are not growing up in the same world that we grew up in as 30 and 40-year-olds. They are in a completely different environment. We haven't even hashed out what the reasons for their heightened anxiety and stress is all the time, but we have a responsibility for them to be able to come to the school and be a place where they're comfortable and they can become the best adult they can be. And if you don't provide those additional services in this real world, like it or not, what the world has become, you're not doing them a service because unfortunately, many aren't getting that care at home. And sometimes, I know personally of families that have been facilitated through the school that have been able to get answers for their child who are thriving now, who were struggling 5, 10 years ago. That's why that stuff is there. That's why the community needs to invest in this with their tax dollars. It's not about just getting kids with jobs. It's about teaching kids resiliency of how to deal with the stressors of this world versus the one we grew up in.
I also want to make a statement to talk about the services because I was probably, Mrs. Buchero, I was probably right where you were maybe 10 years ago. Mental health was something that should be dealt with outside of the school environment. I was pretty adamant about that. And I taught emotional support. So, I mean, when you think about it, I was dealing with that every day, and my kids were getting services in the school and so forth and so on. And that was a little longer than 10 years ago. But up until about 10 years ago, I thought all we do, it's like a dating game. Here's a service, we'll get you the service. You go out on your own outside and take care of that. And if we don't know, good, it's not our business. Reality is all of that has changed. And even the Safe to Say program was something, and Jen probably, and Rich both probably remember this. I thought it was ridiculous. I thought it was going to lead to false reports and everything else. I'm sitting up here today telling you that Safe to Say and the mental health services that we have in this district have saved the lives of children. I'm not overblowing that. It is, I wish I was, but it's the reality situation. Some of the situations we're dealing with kids are life and death. And so I guess in 10 years I've evolved to a point where I didn't see the need to one where I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get our kids the services that they need. Because I know they can't learn those 3 R's when you look at Maslow's hierarchy until we provide them with the physical safety and the emotional safety and the mental safety, as well as those resiliency skills that are necessary. So until we can remove those needs or those barriers to success, we can't really get to the 3 R's because those barriers prevent it. And so certainly appreciate the conversation. I don't think there's a teacher in our district that wouldn't rather be solely focused, or administrator solely focused on academic content and curriculum. Unfortunately, the demands of today have diversified our focus.
Thank you. Any other statements? Chrissy Troutman.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Christy Troutman. I live at 4043 Sloanwood Drive here in Murraysville. I have an 11th grader. I want to first start by saying how glad I am that Franklin Regional is paying attention to the climate of the school, the needs of the students, and working hard to match what students need with the services that we provide. And so thank you very much for that. What I was originally coming to talk to you about was feedback on how Franklin Regional is preparing kids for being productive members of society. So when I went to school, which my daughter points out to me regularly was in the 1900s, I was woefully underprepared to think about college. I was the first person in my family to go to college. I really had no idea, and my parents couldn't help me figure it out. And so I chose my college based on a pretty cool brochure that I saw that stood out from the other ones that I got in the mail that were otherwise indistinguishable to me. And while I think I turned out pretty good, perhaps I would have made some different decisions had I had better guidance. So I'm the parent of a teenager who will be 16 in a month, which means that I get pitifully little information from her about what happens at school. Mostly, nothing happens at school, and her assignments, a shocking number of them, are just boring. So I think typical teenage code. But last year, one of the few assignments that I got to actually read by a process of interrogation was a college to career assignment, which I think was kind of snuck into the English curriculum, where students had to choose what was a potential career that they were interested in, and what were 2 degrees that you could have to get to that career, and then to really trace backwards, comparing and contrasting each of those different paths through college. And so to think about what schools offered those different things. If you graduated with those different degrees, what job opportunities were really open to you? Did they pay the same, or did they not pay the same? Would your student loan debt be the same or not the same? I thought it was a fantastic assignment. She thought it was terrible. But I'll say at this point in 11th grade, we're just starting to think about college. And she is in a much better place. So she's ruled out one of those majors. We're only now looking at colleges for the other major because she's thought critically about it. And she's able to participate in the process in a much more proactive, thoughtful way. And so while she would be unlikely to take that level of coaching from her mom, who knows nothing helpful about it, she got that from school. And so I just want to say, keep those boring assignments coming, because they make a huge difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Chrissy. Okay, Amy Sheridan.
Hey there, I'm Amy Sheridan. I'm at 2785 Walker Court in Export. And hey, thanks for the opportunity to talk tonight. As a fan of public education, I'm excited just to highlight some good news about our schools. I think you all know that we learned in August that Franklin Regional High School had earned that designation as one of the best high schools in the nation by U.S. News and World Report, and that's a really big deal. Not all schools even get ranked. So News and World Report put Franklin Regional in the top 1,000 schools in the nation, and they ranked us as 27th in Pennsylvania, number 8 in the Pittsburgh region, and of course, number 1 in Westmoreland County. So for those of us who are public education super fans, and I know I'm not the only one in this room, I know that being recognized this way means that a lot of people have been working hard for a long time with our students' interests at heart. We've seen the administration working to continuously improve and to create broad and varied educational opportunities and boring homework. that help all of our young citizens develop and contribute. And we see the board, some of them reading really tall stacks of background information, asking serious and compelling questions in committee meetings, and weighing in on how to best use community resources and ensure a safe and optimal learning environment. We see our teachers, again and again, they understand the learning needs of each unique student, and they give students the tools and the resources to grow as students and young citizens. So I'm proud to be the parent of a student in this school district and a member of this education-focused community, and I just want to say that I see all of the work that's gone on here, and I thank all of you for your efforts, and I want you to know that you're appreciated. Thanks.
Thank you, Amy. Okay, Jamie Lang.
Hi again. Jamie Lang, 3501 Burnett Drive. So first of all, Mr. Wyman, thank you very much for engaging with me on my questions. And I think it's fine that you and your wife are okay with the mental health survey. My question about the mental health survey was about the Franklin Regional policy and written parental consent, not on whether it was invasive or not. And secondly, I appreciate the comparison with our names because we even spell it the right way. But names are not pronouns. And if a student wants to volunteer it, that they want to be called a different pronoun, that's fine. But to be asked it in a survey where it's a required answer seems contrary to Franklin Regional policy, and that was the point I was bringing up. So I'll just clarify that. So what I wanted to talk about was some of my concerns and questions about parental consent and data privacy. And a lot of those, of course, obviously were already addressed. So in case you didn't know or you weren't aware or the public didn't know, recently the AASA name and the ASA, the AESA, agencies petitioned the U.S. Department of Education to take steps to reduce the burden of parental consent regulation. So I just wanted to make you aware and ponder the question about why are these organizations wanting parental consent to be reduced or eliminated? To me, that's worrisome. Recently, the Biden-Harris administration made billing more streamlined for schools to bill Medicaid by removing some of the parental consents of Part B of IDEA, the Individuals with Disability Act. Again, that's very concerning. It seems to be that level of parental consent keeps dwindling. So here, it's my understanding, and I'm really just kind of becoming familiar with some of the programs that are available here. My son just enrolled as a junior for the first time. I've homeschooled up until this point, so I was not familiar with MTSS. So I did a bunch of research on that. So I'm curious. I have a bunch of questions. The universal screening, which could be used to identify children who require either behavioral or academic intervention. Is it universal? Is it given to every single student in the school district at every grade level? Or is the behavioral and academic, are they screened and then just certain students referred to take that? So that's one of my questions. So if it's not done then universally, who is doing the referring? I'm curious about that. And who is doing and screening the evaluation results? Do the results of this evaluation get put on the education record of the student? Or even the fact that they were referred get put on there for either behavioral or academic? So with all of the intervention that's being done, I was curious if the school is looking to actually become a medical provider at some point, kind of like what Deb was saying. So bearing in mind that the impediments of parental consent for billing Medicaid have been removed, I have some other questions like, well, if we become a medical provider somehow, like through I think it's Code 50, will Title 10 then providers be allowed in the school setting? To me, that's very, very disturbing. So going back to the coding and what gets put on a school record, FERPA, which protects the privacy of student education records, these records with certain exceptions are records that directly relate to the student and are maintained within the district. Student health records, though, may qualify as education records.
That's your 4 minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
Ms. DeFulvio, can you talk about the MTSS process and our universal screeners that we use, academic screeners?
Sure. So our academic universal screeners right now include Cadience Dibbles, which is a reading screener, STAR 360, which is math and ELA. And those are, and we use CDTs at the high school level. So STAR 360 is K to 8. CDT serves the same purpose for ELA and math at this time at the high school level, and they are based out of the state, and they kind of are mirrored to the PSSA. So they help give us data around which students might need support in terms of those academic areas. As far as our MTSS process relative to behavioral or emotional needs, we are really still allowing teachers to refer students who might seem to need support. Actually, a teacher, a student, a parent, anyone can refer to the Student Assistance Program. So there is no, currently no universal screener for any type of behavioral area.
Okay. So do these screeners help the teachers determine how to best service the students?
Yes, that's the purpose of them.
So if the teachers didn't have this, they would just make a guess about what
Well,
they're
they'd
supposed
collect
to do
their
best
own data and not have any comparable data. They wouldn't be able to track progress.
So they'd be kind of throwing a dart, figuring out what might work, what might not work.
That's how it used to be, yes.
Okay. And so it seems to be trying to focus the resources in a more effective manner.
Yes, and they're all evidence and research-based universal screeners for those academic areas.
And they're screeners for academic areas, is what you said.
Yes, and every student in those grade levels I referenced takes those. So a kindergartner who comes in is screened to make sure that we are catching any issues with phonics, say. And then as we progress, monitor them over time, the next benchmark. And I get very excited about this data because last year by February, I think we were at 95% of our kindergarten students were at benchmark for reading, which I don't know that we've ever had that before. And with the COVID lag, it was very, very exciting. And that comes from not taking so much time with a teacher doing individualized, as you're mentioning, classroom level screeners. But when you have that, and our MTSS coordinators are able to really work through that data with the PLC teams, the data is so powerful because you can then group students the way they need to be for those very specific interventions.
So we're talking about all of the interventional things that we've discussed and been building through curriculum, testing some, trying to do things, try to learn what the best data is. We've had these conversations with our curriculum meeting and in here as well, talking about finding gaps in kids' education, correcting those gaps quickly so that they don't fall behind. That's the survey we're talking about with universal screenings, when we hear universal screenings, correct?
Yes. So I guess the other piece to mention for MTSS as a whole, sometimes you collect data that can be behavioral in nature that is not collected directly from a child. For instance, attendance. So if you have a child who becomes truant after the 15th day of school, like last week, because they're having some type of issue and we don't know what that is, the MTSS core team in that building needs to address why that child isn't coming to school. You can't wait until the 9 weeks are over and then wonder why they're failing their classes. So you have grades, you have attendance. If a teacher notices that a child is falling asleep in class, that is the kind of information they're giving to the counselors. So we don't have, let's say, a universal screener where every teacher is marking off questions like, does the child fall asleep? That would be a waste of our time in a sense, because very rarely is a child falling asleep in class. But we are able to kind of collect that data out of our student information system to see whether there are grade or attendance issues. And then anything relative to a child who seems like they're struggling is reported by the teacher to the counselor or by the parent to the counselor. And then we're able to assess whether that child needs further support.
So at this point, it's observational And do we have professional development then for the teachers to notice the red flags?
Yes.
And then they report it to the counselor, or they report it to our SIS? It's like, how do they report it?
Through a SAP referral.
Okay, through the SAP.
But coming back to MTSS, I'm actually really excited. Having done this in a previous life as a principal, it really helps us to know student needs by name. To begin, often with staff, I equate it to a medical model. And so we assess kids, we see what their needs are, and then we can be very prescriptive in terms of filling those gaps. And Mrs. DeFulvio talked about this. If a student is missing 2 or 3 phonemes in terms of decoding, instead of going back and reteaching all of those concepts or those skills, we can go back and through prescriptive instruction, hit those 2 or 3 areas and really move that student up to speed or up to grade level or benchmark more quickly. I'm really excited because this week I'm actually, on Wednesday afternoon, I am sitting in on the meetings at our primary school as we begin talking about students at benchmark to start the school year. And the beauty of that meeting is that we will talk about data and we will talk about students and specific student needs, and they will begin the process of planning the interventions for those students and the intensity of that intervention based upon the needs of those students. Parents will know when their kids are receiving services. We will let them know because we know the parents, whether it's mental health or whether it's academics, our parents are our greatest partners. And so we work to try to ensure that not only are we reinforcing those skills in a school environment, but we are also assisting our parents to assist their children in the home environment.
Can I give another really
Sure,
exciting example about that? So this year, we were able to use our Brigance inventory, which is the screener that is given to every incoming kindergarten child individually. So the parent comes in, there's a scheduled time, that parent waits for 15 minutes right there while the child answers some questions. When we saw some students who maybe couldn't name the letters or the numbers or they're very simple tasks that we're asking the children to do, we were able to use that data for all of our kindergartners coming in and offer to the parents, we're going to do a 4-day ABC camp. And we used our ESSER funding to do that, much like our summer tutoring for the other students. That is also based on data. And so we had students come in, we had teachers come in, we had speech therapists, we had all kinds of support staff, and they were able to work with those students in very small groups for those 4 days. What results out of that, though, is that parent connection. So the parents are dropping off, picking up. At the last day, they were able to have a parent meeting for about an hour and a half and explain to the parents, here's how we do this work. Let's practice together. And they're planning currently at the primary school an evening for literacy to bring parents in and show them exactly how we do what we do so that they can then do that with their children. So we're trying to start that even before we work with our local preschools as well to start to share that information. So that's a really great example of why you screen every child, because a majority of those students aren't going to need that support, but the ones who do, getting to them really quickly benefits them so greatly.
And I think that's, what I've been hearing as a constant theme is anything that has the word survey or screening is a 4-letter word tonight. And I hope that we're articulating some of the purpose and benefit behind that. If we weren't doing these things and just re-updating our curriculum broadly and blankly, I guarantee you every parent in this district would be more upset with us because we weren't trying to identify what the gaps were, what is needed, what we need to assist them in helping their kids. So there's going to be people on all sides that want everything screened and all data shared, there's going to be people that don't trust a single thing with any type of data. When you go in the real world, you got to pay your taxes online. You've got to give your information out to people. There are levels of insecurity in every single thing we do in life. Our district's responsibility, our board's responsibility is to ensure that we are being as diligent as possible, using the resources that we have to do this right, to make these things worthwhile, and to protect the information that we have to gather in order to make good decisions.
I agree, and the other thing to that point is the kids coming into kindergarten and things of now, right? We're about 3 years out of COVID and the impact on it from the pandemic standpoint, and it's reassuring and it's fantastic to see that they're coming in at a really high level. But we can't forget about all the other students that impacted, that they didn't have a normal kindergarten, they didn't have a normal first grade, second grade, third grade, and so forth. So they started behind a little bit, and we have to be able to bridge those gaps, and we have to be able to see that, not on the backs of everywhere, but individually, so that we can pull them out and actually get them the skill set that they need to be able to do that and catch that early and get them right back to where they need to do and advance, because that's what we're about. We're about advancing this school district and advancing each and every single student to be the best that they can be.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, solicitors' comments.
Nothing for public session, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Solicitor. Okay, items removed from the consent agenda item for separate action by members of the board.
Yes. Can you please pull number 2 and number 7?
2 and 7. All right. I need approval of consent agenda item 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17.
Motion to approve all those you just said.
Second. Motion, Mark, second, Bill. Questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Okay, Dr. Remy, number 2.
Yes, I just wanted to pull this for a separate vote,
Okay,
and also number 7.
okay. In other words, we're going to do this for a roll call vote, number 2 and number 7. Can we do those together? No?
Whatever, Miss.
All right, separate.
Want somebody both, please?
Okay. You're making a motion for a roll call vote for number 2 then? Okay, I need a second for
I'll
the,
second it, Mark.
okay, Mark, second. Okay, roll call vote.
Mr. Moderator,
I want to have that looked at longer, so it's not a yes.
That's a no.
That's a no.
Mr. Weinman,
Yes.
Mr. Karimsky,
Yes.
Mr. Kozlowski,
Yes.
Mr. Azalina,
Yes.
Ms. Altieri Hand,
No.
Mr. Yant, Dr. Eshelman Ramey,
No.
Mr. Yingling.
Yes. Okay, motion carries 6-3. To continue. Okay, number 7, I need a motion to do a roll call vote for FRSD Health and Safety Plan.
I would like a discussion first. So this is a every 6-month update, you said. What, are there any concerns by anybody in this particular update versus the last one that anyone has?
It basically says we're going to follow the rules that are enforced upon us.
Right, and we do it every, correct, how often do we do it again? 6 months?
Yes, every 6 months.
So we approve this, and do we make any specific changes to this?
That's the last one?
Very slight wording changing from the CDC guidance, but nothing that impacts any action.
So is it pretty much the same document we approved 6 months ago?
Yes, I think that the only significant wording change was that there was wording in there relative to isolation and quarantining, and the CDC is no longer giving us guidance around that. So,
So there's no relevancy to that anymore?
right, so, yes. We are still providing the information that's available through our health services staff as it comes, and if it changes, that's what the wording now says, that as it changes, the nurses will share that as needed with the parents.
Thank you.
So nothing significant at all. It's pretty much same old, same old. Thank you.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Okay, Ms. Gillen, roll call.
We had a motion or second?
I thought we did that. He made the motion and was seconded already.
Who was the second?
Pardon me?
Who was the second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
Mr. Weinman?
Yes.
Mr. Karimsky?
Yes.
Mr. Kozlowski?
Yes.
Mr. Azalina?
Yes.
Ms. Altieri Hand?
Yes.
Mr. Yant? Yes. Dr. Eshelman Ramey?
No.
Mr. Yingling?
Yes. Okay, motion passed 8-1. All right, I need a motion for a roll call vote for permission to advertise the 2024-25 joint purchasing program.
So
Motion,
moved.
Mark.
Move Mark, second Ed. Comments? Roll call vote.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
Mr. Weinman?
Yes.
Mr. Karimsky?
Yes.
Mr. Kozlowski?
Yes.
Mr. Azalina?
Yes.
Ms. Altieri Hand?
Yes.
Mr. Yant?
Yes.
Dr. Eshelman Ramey?
Yes.
Mr. Yingling?
Yes. Okay, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Move Bill, second Ed. Comments, all in favor, aye. Motion carries 9-0. Thank you, everybody.